It's a clear information that we have been expecting. If you look at it very well, Nigeria has the highest population in Africa, and apart from that, we also have the highest GDP. So if you look at that very well, anything that happens to Nigeria negatively will definitely come back to affect Africa, and that's why Nigeria needs to do more, because most Africans are expecting us to move beyond where we are, and that's why we look at several policies. Nigeria, when you are doing policy for Nigeria, you should have the mind of other African countries, because they believe when we sneeze, others also follow. And apart from that, we also have natural resources that is not that like that available in Africa. Nigeria foreign exchange is expected to be very, very high compared to what we have in Nigeria. You know, if you look at natural resources, a lot of them, and the leading one still remain oil and gas. So how well have you really do well? And that's why most of us are happy with what Dangote is bringing. It's going to have a lot of positive effect to economy in Nigeria, because it's not only for Nigeria, it also increase the GDP of Africa as a whole.
Absolutely. So I keep wondering, what is really stunting our growth?
Well, the fact is that if you look at it from different angle, you look at our tax to GDP, that's a very thing that we need to look at. Also, we look at the level of our borrowings. You know, all these things are matters. And apart from that, we are not also attracting foreign direct investment, maybe with consequence of the insecurity that we are having. And we are not harnessing our infant industry as expected, because when Nigeria blew, other countries in Africa blew.
Absolutely. You mentioned tax to GDP, and that brought me to the report released 2 days ago by NBS that our tax to GDP is now 10.86%. That is below World Bank target of 15%. So we are still struggling as a nation.
Well, I think we should say we even try, because before it was way below. Now we are coming up gradually.
It was about 6% before.
About 6%. That's why I said it's a geometric increment, because if you look at just between 1 year, we have that. But the fact just remains that our tax to GDP in Africa is the lowest. And it's a lot of, in fact, it's funny that Nigeria with the highest population, that have working category more than other countries, that have the natural resources, is doing low in terms of tax to GDP. That reflects on how serious we are, and our laws. That's another, because ordinarily, Nigeria is supposed to do more. In fact, let's say...
Is it that our tax rate is low, or a lot of people are not paying?
No, our tax rate is not low, but people in the tax net is very, very low. Okay. And I think that's the part. When we say people in the tax net, you will discover that most personal income tax, which is what government also enjoy more, it's from mostly civil servants. So we expect company owners to be a partner to tax FIRS by making sure that they remove or they find way of getting tax from their employee. And that thing is the incentive also, because you know federal government also have to put a lot of incentive that makes Nigerians to pay tax. Then our corporate taxes. So these are the things we need. A lot of things need to be look into. Our VAT is not that bad, even though in Africa you still see we are doing very, very low. But bring more people into the tax net, I think that will help. So we need to decipher more technology, because recently when I saw the last Corporate Affairs Commission certificate, I discovered that once you are getting the certificate, the number of your tax thing is embedded in certificate. That's a very, very noble one. So we also want them to go beyond that and do more of technology to checkmate, because another area that Nigeria is not taxing is entertainment. The money we are getting in entertainment is not small in terms of contribution to GDP, but we are not taxing them appropriately. So, and this is why Nigeria has to do a structure that if you are doing an engagement, that your money crosses bank.
What about the informal sector? The informal sector is also not properly taxed.
Not at all. And that's why we say there needs to be an incentive and a structure. If it is well structured, and Nigeria is, I mean, if federal government actually structure it the way it's supposed to be, there will be a lot of tax payment, because even those informal you are talking, their money still pass through bank, right? Yes, so once your money pass through bank, it's expected that banks should also find way, or government should find way of identifying this person, the inflow, and looking at the tax, appropriate tax, and engage the person.
And probably maybe our data collection system is not
if you look at our data collection, how many informal sector are even captured? Remember, most way government also do it is that they will do that, maybe farmers association, women farmer association. So when they come through that association, it becomes much easier. So government needs to look into it, and perhaps we should also avoid the double taxation but increase our tax net.
Interesting, increase our tax net. Now, where does the problem lies? You say that our tax rate is not so high, but again, some countries think that our tax rate is very low, considering our position in Africa and, of course, the role we play around the world.
Right. You know, withholding tax is 10%, while VAT is 7.5%. Now, if you ask me, yes, we are low in Africa, but we don't need to increase tax at this point in time. Let's increase the tax net. I can tell you a lot of companies are still not in the tax net. A lot of informal sector are not in the tax net. A lot of companies are not even remitting or submitting the appropriate number of their perhaps they also want to pay low, so they don't want to also pay the tax. So government has to decipher a structure that will identify people in the informal sector, people in the formal sector, and how to really generate this tax. So the major thing is that increase the tax net. And how do you increase the tax net? Is for you to identify people that are not paying and bring them to the tax net, and also bring in technology. You know, technology has become a tool to really, but we must commend FIRS. Over time, they have increased in technology, but we want them to do more.
Interesting there. How will you juxtapose that with the cost of living? A lot of Nigerians are struggling to earn, you know, a living. But if you look at, if you think, many of them at this point, some of them, especially in the informal sector, are not paying tax. So by the time you start deducting tax from their earning, how much do you think will be left for them to take care of their families?
Government has a lot of role to play when it comes to taxation. You know why? There must be appropriate infrastructure. If I'm using my money to buy fuel, you know, I'm using my money to fix the road, I'm using my money to do, you know, even buy transformer.
So how do you even
provide your own water? You know, go to Abuja, everywhere is borehole, you know. So when I'm doing that for myself, I'll be thinking, what is the essence of me paying tax? So government needs to come on board and make sure they solve these things that have been solved over time, that are supposed to have been solved over for a long time. If they can fix those things, then for me to pay tax will be an easy ride. So we want to justify as human being, what am I paying for? If you are paying school fees for a child, you want to see it reflecting. So when we are paying tax, we also want government to do their part. So that's the incentive they should come up with. If I have electricity that I don't need to generate it myself, I'll have to pay. If I need energy and it's within my reach, I'll be free. How can you tell a barber that run a barber shop to come and pay tax? They will think I provide everything for myself and you want me to pay tax. But if government actually do this, it can also have them in a database and request for the tax appropriately.
And quickly look at our GDP to per capita in terms of our consumption is very low, 0.8%, based on the report from McKinsey. So what do you think this government should do to increase this as we go forward?
Like I said, the thing is, for you to let people have more income, you need to also work on what is taking their purchasing power. So if you ask me now at this point in time, I want to from here to
But the government is complaining of being broke. How would they be able to pay more?
But the government should not complain of being broke with this new regime of subsidy removal. They don't have excuse again. They need to also put their thinking cap and look for revenue avenue to augment all these challenges. Government is there for them to think, because Nigeria have a lot that is untapped. And I believe this new administration should look at that direction by putting up their thinking cap, have the best economic team, and also make sure that we do more of productivity than consumption. It's very easy. Once you create the economic activities, we will have more to spend and more to make do. So government should do more on their part.
More jobs will be created.
It's one brings the other. Once you create a good enabling environment, manufacturer can access credit as expected. Not that this high interest rate, it will move on to creating employment. And when there is employment, people will have the purchasing power, people will have the ability to spend, and it will even reflect on our GDP, which is going to bring growth in the long run.
Aliyu Ilias, financial analyst, I must thank you for your time on Business Daily today.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, all right. Well, that's the size of our show for the week. We'll be back on Monday, Democracy Day, June 12th, of course. For more, I am Yusuf Akogu.